The 0-2 pitch, swing and a miss, struck him out. The Philadelphia Phillies are 2008 World Champions of Baseball.
Good, buddy. Welcome back to another episode of the Phixated Podcast. I am your host, Mike Azzalina, and I am joined by a man who spent the last 20 minutes trying to convince me to go to WrestleMania by myself. Regz.
Hi, buddy. I think I ultimately I would have gone with you, I think.
Well, if I would have done that.
I'm a closeted wrestling fan from back in the day. And I mean, I'm not so up to date on the new stuff, but like I've been known to go down a rabbit hole of YouTube videos. I played all those old WWE video games on like the N64 and stuff like that.
You got the new ones out.
It's in there. It's in there somewhere. Not as passionate as you for sure, but I mean, like you were saying, for a 6-hour program and seeing The Rock wrestle, like that's right up the alley for me.
I consider myself to be a casual, but like very involved. Like I don't watch it live.
Yeah.
Unless it's like one of these events. Like I'll DVR roll and like fast forward through basically everything.
Yeah.
But just have a feel for what's going on. And I read the stuff online. It just feels like times in my week where like I need mindless. Like if I'm running at the gym or I sit down and I want to read, I just have it on in the background. But it's become more and more entertaining. And there was entertainment of going to Mania with my buddy Adam, even Joseph at one point, but the tickets were too high for my brother Joseph because of his vision. Unfortunately, I didn't want him to like feel like
he's just kind of sitting there. Yeah, right.
Yeah, what the experience changes then. And then Adam and I were kind of like, I don't know, do we want to spend this guy like we can watch? So we decided that we're just gonna watch it together both nights.
There you go.
One night at my house and the other night at his house. We both enjoy it. We talk about it pretty much weekly. Just like, did you see this? What do you think? And I'll tell you what, the athleticism.
Oh yeah,
is
it's like
so different now.
Crazy.
Then I mean, the women are just insane with some of the stuff that they do, and a bunch of the wrestlers have already made their way to Philly. They were at the Phillies game tonight. Kruk is a huge
wrestling fan. I don't think Kofi Kingston could believe it.
Yeah. Kofi felt very much. Kofi's one of my favorites. I mean, that guy's been around for over a decade.
He's like, how does this guy know so much? Kruk was just like reeling it off.
Yeah. I think one of my favorite things was when he was saying, when he was talking about the World Series, and if the World Series doesn't have the Phillies, he watches wrestling instead.
Yeah.
I was dying. I was like, me too. Me too.
My wife, like for whatever, like usually there's something else going on, so we're not acutely attuned to like all the games, but like she was listening to Kruk and she's like, is he okay? Like, is there something wrong? I was like, no, he's just a hick from West Virginia. And she's like, oh, that makes a lot more sense. And I was like, yeah, when you have the proper context, a lot of it just makes sense. The ramblings and the random thoughts and all that stuff.
Yeah. He definitely loves it, and I appreciate his love.
Oh yeah.
And certainly, like, when 2 innings go by, Kofi's gone, and he's still like just randomly bringing up wrestlers.
Yeah.
And McCarthy's just like, all right, cool, whatever.
I know,
like,
it's a rainy Tuesday, right? Just let him cook.
But also, I'm sure that there's like agreements with all the, I think there were actually wrestlers over at the Sixers game tonight.
Yeah.
Too. So there's probably agreements with all the broadcasts.
And it seemed like they met some fans like for a charity, like before the game, the wrestlers with some of the Phillies guys. Like,
yeah.
They're
building it up. I mean, these guys, they're here all week. Every event from this point on, they're holding a tailgate on.
Oh
like,
yeah.
Wednesday
WrestleMania is as big as it gets.
I mean, it's 4 nights, man. It's gonna be Friday night is the SmackDown show, and then the Hall of Fame, and then night 1, night 2, and Monday Night Raw. Like all of it is.
Is it all in Philly?
All in Philly.
Wow, that's wild.
Yeah, SmackDown, the Hall of Fame will be on at the Wells Fargo
Yep.
on Friday night, and then Mania nights 1 and 2 are both at the link, and it looks like it's going to be nice weather. And then Raw will be at Wells Fargo on Monday. So
That's awesome.
yeah, Philly gets the whole weekend. It's crazy.
That's crazy.
And the Raw after WrestleMania is always like pure chaos.
Yeah.
Like they have all these returns and debuts. The fans are always in like an uproar. I also looked at tickets for that. I was like, maybe.
Hey.
And not giving up on that one yet.
All right,
Still
there you
in
go.
my head
There you go.
thinking maybe I'll go to that. We'll see what tickets look like on, Saturdays
Not to
Sunday.
sidetrack also, but you talked about reading. My son has now started the Harry Potter books that we are reading together.
All right now. So you're on book 1?
We are literally on chapter 2 of book 1. We just started the other night. I usually make him read all the pages, but we are alternating pages just because I think I'm going to enjoy rereading them. So yeah, he's excited. He's looking forward to it.
I'm gonna get back in to book 4. I think I want to read 2 more before I read it. I felt like I was moving too fast and I needed like a pause. So I'm gonna jump into book 4. I'm finishing 1 tonight, then I have another one I want to read, and I'm gonna do 1 more, and then I'll jump into book 4. Because I was like, I'm gonna get through these too quickly and not appreciate them the way that I feel like I should. So I'm pausing. But speaking of reading, at the end of the show tonight, we have a very special guest.
Yes, we do.
Very excited to have Grayson Healy, a 5th grade student who whose father reached out to us and is a fan of the show, and Brian, and asked if, Grayson had to write an essay for class about his favorite place in the world. And Grayson chose Citizens Bank Park. And they talked about it. He wanted to read it on the podcast because they listened to it together. And so he reached out and asked, and we were like, oh, that'd be awesome. Like, for sure. Come on. So we had Grayson on a little bit earlier. Y'all are going to love him. He's going to be your new favorite part of Phixated.
He's done some of the coolest stuff that like I've never done.
Right. And he wrote so eloquently.
He wrote fantastically.
He really did.
And reread it wonderfully.
Yeah, because I'm sitting there like, I don't even know how to ask like a question to go further in depth because he did such
covered
a nice
it
job
all.
going. Yeah, and so it was really cool to have him on. And, so we'll give you that. That's going to be our end of the show tonight, the grand finale. So we appreciate Brian reaching out and Grayson coming on. So if you know anybody who has written something or a kid who wants to jump on, we love that. That was fun.
It was awesome. Yeah.
It was our first experience with that, and it might be one of my new favorite guests.
I mean, it tickled all your buttons.
It sure did. It sure did. Writing, teacher, like shout out Mr. Shutter for giving them something cool to write about, like that he was passionate about. And yeah, just like the school thing.
Yeah.
That was all. And then, he talked about the Philly fanatic.
It hit all the Azzy buttons. It hit all of them.
You got all of it. You like my new hat, buddy?
I do. We just bought my oldest son one, actually, when we were at the game on Sunday.
It's a sweet one.
It's a good hat. I probably am going to get one also.
Yeah, I had to, and I'm loving it. I've worn it. I'm probably wearing it on the plane tomorrow. So,
love it.
Just gonna keep it rolling. But we've got a busy show tonight, man. We're gonna cover all 3 teams. Not necessarily cover the Sixers, but we do have to talk about them because someone's back. Someone is back, Regz.
Someone is.
After a very
he's a
long...
large human.
Yes. And he's only played 25 minutes tonight. We're in the 4th quarter, and he's not on the floor. But the difference in this team with him on the court, just present, is like...
Yeah, it was also like a weird start to the night. He was listed as still out at 5:30.
Yeah. And then it was questionable.
And then Nick Nurse spoke to the media, and then it was questionable. And then Woj reported that he was playing.
Yeah.
Like, it's been a whole, again, the Sixers do nothing easy or, traditional. And
yeah.
So I don't know where you want to go, but if you'll indulge me, I think I just want to touch on a few things.
I was just leaving it open.
All right.
Embiid's back, so go for it.
Number one, he's going to be on a minutes restriction for a while.
So
you can't, We're not looking for Joel Embiid, the greatest basketball player in the world that he was for a few months there. That's not the goal of this exercise.
Right.
The goal is to build back his game conditioning for the play-in game. That is what we're talking about.
Correct.
If he goes a night where he only has like 12 and 5 and no assists, like, we're not worried about that. Can he stay healthy, and can the minutes continue to ramp up? So I still don't know if they get past the play-in game if he's not playing at the absolute peak of his powers. To be quite honest, they sure as hell don't beat the Celtics without him at the peak of his powers.
No.
So I just think people and fans need to understand what do they have? 10 games left? Something like that?
Yeah,
what this next 2.5 weeks is about.
Yeah. I appreciate you saying that. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 games.
Okay. So even less. A week and a half.
They're not
2 weeks.
They're not jumping the teams in front of them.
No.
They're absolutely they're playing in the playing game.
Yes.
It's really important that they win the first playing game.
That would be nice.
You don't want to be battling back, and in order to win it, Joel's got to be full bore ready.
Mm-hmm.
And Regz, you're 100% right. These next few weeks are going to be Joel playing, or maybe I would say they have 2 more games this week. 3 more games Sunday. So starting the new week. So 2 more games this week, Thursday, Saturday. I anticipate he's playing every game from.
I would imagine, yes.
Maybe not that Brooklyn game on Sunday the 14th. Like, if you feel like he's ramped up at that point, I think you probably sit as many guys as you can just to ensure that you're healthy going into. But even if he plays like 10 minutes in that game, just to
I just think you got to get him out there just to, like, you can't underestimate the amount of time he's missed.
Yeah,
and we're not talking about Jaylen Brown. Like, we're not talking about a Tyrese Maxey. We're talking about a 7'2" behemoth.
Yeah,
who with a history of lower extremity injuries.
Yeah,
that takes longer than probably most human beings on the planet to get in the right shape.
I will tell you, I flipped it on tonight in between Phillies innings. He looks good.
That's fantastic. I didn't watch a second, so that's good. That's great.
He actually looks like he's in better shape than he was before the injury. I don't want to say slimmer. I don't know if Joel's ever going to be slimmer. I don't know. There's something almost like he looks more muscular than he did, like almost like
he had nothing else to do, so he got in the weight room for a while.
I think that might be exactly what it is, Regz. I don't know, but he certainly looked the part. I want to just go back to what you said, which is everybody needs to chill as we go into these next few weeks, because this is all about getting Joel healthy for what is to come. This is not about Joel.
His stats don't matter one bit.
Nope. I mean, we just need him healthy when the time comes,
and in some semblance of game shape.
Yes. They're currently only down 5 with 5 minutes left. Like, they're hanging. And he's not on the floor. So, and I know you said some guys aren't playing from OKC.
Well, yeah, possibly the best player in the NBA right now in SGA. And possibly the best wing defender in Jalen McDaniels. So,
Paul
or Jalen Williams, excuse me. He's Jalen Williams.
Paul Reed just stole the ball at midcourt and went the distance and dunked it. They're down
boy,
3 with
Reed.
4 minutes.
And
I think like some of this is still like, look, I know that. And one on the other side. I know that SGA is not playing tonight. This is still the best team in the West. And you're not just the best team in the West because of one player. But this is for the Sixers, winning this game would mean a lot. Just as you get to the playoffs, as he gets, and even competing in it has to make a difference for them. So we'll keep a close eye on it. Obviously, as the playoffs approach, we know we've been negligent to the Sixers, but I think we were pretty explicit as to why. We're not going to waste our time talking about. No one wants to listen to it. When the playoffs roll around, of course, especially with Joe back, and we'll have those conversations as we get closer. But we weren't going to talk about a team that was basically Buddy Hield and Tyrese Maxey running around and Tobias Harris missing every shot. Now that Joe's back, as we hit to the playoffs, we will preview, recap all of the things.
Yes.
But the big news tonight is Joel is back. Thank goodness.
Yeah.
Because Sixers basketball was very tough to watch without Joel Embiid.
Yeah. Arguably unwatchable.
Yeah, I mean, I watched.
Did you listen to the clap your hands where Elliot like is half cry laughing on the podcast because of how bad the team is? Like, I think this was it was a week or two after Joel was hurt.
Yeah.
And they were in a tough stretch, but just losing everything. They looked terrible. And Elliot got on the pod and literally was crying and laughing at the same time and just being like, they're the worst team ever. Like, for all his defense of the team and how much he's been a fan, it is like, I listened to it 4 times. I rewound and just listened to the same 5 minutes because it's just so funny. Oh my God, it was hilarious. It was like, if you haven't listened to it, please go back and listen to it because it's the best 5 minutes you'll spend about like what the Sixers are.
You'll have to tell me what episode it was because I will definitely go back.
I'll find it. Yeah. I think they literally labeled the episode, "The Sixers Have Broken Elliot." I literally think that's the name of the episode.
I like that.
Oh my God, it was so funny.
I like that. The Sixers have broken Elliot.
Yeah.
That's funny.
It's so good.
That's funny. I can appreciate that. All right. So we're gonna kind of end the Sixers stuff there. We will Joel is back in the game, by the way.
He did come back in the game, yep.
He did come back in the game with 4 minutes left. He's got the cornrows. I think that's part of the reason I think he looks great. Love when he goes cornrows.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
So
sorry, the Sixers finally broke Elliot is the name of the episode.
That makes it easier to find.
3/14/24. Oh my God, it's so good.
So Regz.
Azzy.
Eagles talk here.
Yeah.
Couple of things. I want to start with the thing that I believe is most important. Phixated guy Reed Blankenship signed an extension.
I mean, as you know, we are part of the original Reed Blankenship bandwagon.
I honestly don't. I wouldn't even call it a bandwagon, Regs. I think we were the original Reed Blankenship fan base. There was a legitimate prediction of this guy becoming an Eagle before the draft. And he became an Eagle. And it's been one of my favorite moments of Phixated. Sixers down 2.
He might need to be our next guy we tweet at.
I just think, like, with the clip of me predicting that he's coming.
Yeah, exactly.
He has turned himself into one of the better players on the roster. I think he's one of the better safeties in the conference, at least. This is a guy who was undrafted and has turned himself into a legitimate Pro Bowl conversation safety year in and year out. And deserved this extension.
Yeah.
And he's got incentives built into it that get him extra money in games played, which has been a bugaboo for him.
Did you see that he was one of like the highest incentive paid players
this year?
Yeah.
Through the
right,
through the players union.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
So I think I listened to Bo and Zach's pod about
did
this.
They talk about it today?
Talked about it today.
Okay.
Yep.
All right.
And I thought they put it perfectly. I think they said, look, buying out a guy like this, his restricted free agency year, is just a smart move.
Yeah.
It indicates they don't necessarily want him to go anywhere for the next 2 years, but you shouldn't take it as Reed Blankenship is now the safety of the future for the Eagles.
Correct.
He is a very serviceable player who has been playing well.
Mm-hmm.
And they made a smart business decision to avoid his restricted free agency.
Yeah.
And I, like you said, all credit to Reed Blankenship from going from a undrafted free agent to a starter on an NFL team. Like that level of difficulty can't be understated.
And started on a Super Bowl contender.
Exactly. But that's what I mean. Just that level of difficulty can't be understated. And his work ethic and his persistence can't be understated.
Right.
Is Reed Blankenship like going to be one of the best safeties in the NFL? I don't know.
Probably
he can
not.
certainly be average to above average.
Yeah.
But like, they did draft a guy who has a very similar skill set in Sidney Brown. Like, Reed Blankenship is a downhill guy who comes up to break up plays and stop the run.
Yes.
They drafted a guy who's probably more athletic, a little bit quicker in a Sidney Brown.
Yep.
But like, look, if you are just signing Reed Blankenship for one more year to get away from the restricted free agency, to keep some depth in your safety room, I think you're right where you need to be, and people need to just understand that like this is not guaranteeing Reed as like your starting safety for 5 years. This is keeping some depth in your safety room, you know, while you get a guy like Gardner Johnson, while you hope Sidney Brown continues to improve, and unfortunately is coming off a devastating injury.
Right.
Like, that's the goal of this. You keep a good player who still probably has special teams value, even if he's not a starter. Like, it's just a smart decision to keep guys like this around. And yeah, that's what it comes down to.
As you build depth on your roster.
Exactly.
He's the perfect piece for that. You know, he was initially drafted for that. He got forced into playing when CJ got hurt. And then, you know, he kind of stuck in because they had other injuries, and he's been really good for them since that. Look, you're right. He's not the perfect safety. He led the team in tackles the last 2 years. He's all over the place. And if they do find some consistency at the safety spot when Sidney Brown comes back, he's a piece you can kind of move around and put him in the box. You can let him float and put Sidney in the box. You have a couple of chess pieces.
Yeah.
This is not a draft a safety in. So, you know, another safety's probably coming in late free agency. And that's okay.
And yeah.
But this allows you to avoid the need for more depth for the next 2 full seasons.
And they also,
and then he walks.
They also made a good point that with Gardner Johnson's ability to play the nickel, you could have all 3 of them on the field at the same time.
Correct.
And like, that's important to have at least somebody you could trust to be out there.
Yes.
All together.
Yeah.
Like, you could have depth, but if it's a guy you would never want to have see the light of day, what's the point? They have the ability to like have this guy actually play and be a very meaningful player for a team that's looking to bounce back on the defensive side.
Yeah. And he could be a nice little chess piece for Fangio depending on who wants to use him. So that's a positive on a defense that needs more positives. A negative in that same vein would be the unfortunate trade of Hassan Reddick. Look, we've had Hassan for 2 years, and he was really good for 2 years. He fell off a little bit here at the end of year 2, and it's unfortunate that, you know, they couldn't come to terms and figure something out. However, I do believe that I know a lot of people weren't happy with the trade and what they got in return. I'm okay with it. I'll explain why in a little bit. I think for me, it is more so about this was sort of a no-brainer once they restructured Sweat. And we knew it was coming. We weren't sure when, for what, or to who. I think, and again, I'll talk about why I think it's a good move in a few moments here. But it needed to happen. He wasn't going to play here under his contract. He wasn't going to be happy about it. So they had to go figure something else out, and they went and moved it. So here we are. It's disappointing from the lens of like, he was our best defensive player. This is a defense who needs superstars, and he was one. And now I don't know that I can think of one superstar on the defense. You hope that you get some, but they're also very short at edge rusher now. unless you're saying that Nolan Smith's taking a huge step forward, which I don't believe he is, your edge rushers at the moment are Sweat, Huff, Graham, and Julian Okwara. Unless I'm missing somebody.
Nolan Smith.
I believe, and Nolan Smith, who I mentioned, yes. But it's not a great depth position for them.
Yeah.
So let's start here with how you're feeling about it, and then I'll get into why I like the actual trade itself and what I think is going to happen in the next couple of weeks.
I'm on the side of this made the Eagles worse.
Mm-hmm.
So I understand the contract aspect. I understand the money aspect. It just has to lower your expectations of what this defense is going to do at this time. Other things might happen, like you said, but you're putting an enormous amount of faith in Bryce Huff being a 3 and 4 down defensive end who plays 75%, 80% of the snaps, which to this point in his career he has not done. You're putting a ton of faith in Josh Sweat rebounding after a very poor year of football. You're putting a ton of faith in Nolan Smith, who is an undersized defensive end who's relying on speed to like really step it up. And I think what some people aren't talking about is that this to me also speaks to what they expect out of Jalen Carter to hopefully make up for some of the disruption that Hassan Reddick causes on any given play. And look, he's in his second year. Defensive tackles don't have breakouts until their fourth, maybe fifth year. That's when these guys.
And we saw signs of that this
year.
Oh,
sure. I'm not speaking to the man's the man's talent. It's off the charts. But just when you look at defensive tackles in general, even the best ones have taken almost 4 years to reach that point.
Right.
And so you're asking this out of a second-year player who, again, has talent through the roof.
Mm-hmm.
But, you're putting a lot of faith in guys who, I'm not saying they can't do it, but have yet to prove it in an NFL season.
Yeah.
And that makes the defense, it makes your team worse. It just does. And it's not usually something that the Eagles do. They don't tend to try and make themselves worse, or they tend not to make moves that make them worse. But it just is they are worse. Hassan Reddick was a top 5 defensive end in the NFL for the past 2 years.
Mm-hmm.
You are a worse football team without him on your roster.
Right. At the moment.
Yes. Caveat, many things could happen, but at the moment, as it stands right now, they are a worse football team.
I think, I have to catch up on all things Zach and Bo. I'm sure they've dug into this at this point. So for me, Regs, I agree with the idea that they're worse than they were, what is it, 72 hours ago, 96 hours ago, something like that. I think for me, the reason why I'm not kind of in that mind, and I had kind of mentally prepared myself for they're taking a step back to move forward, because he wasn't he just wasn't going to play under the contract.
Yeah.
And if he did, it was going to be begrudgingly, and you're not going to get a happy guy. He wasn't really happy last year, to be quite honest with you. And I loved Hassan Reddick. I think, unfortunately, he's going to be remembered, I think, slimly here, because he was only here for a short time, but he was disruptive and dominant.
Yeah, especially for a kid from Camden who goes to Temple.
Correct.
It was such a great story, and
it was.
It's one of those guys you hope could be here forever.
Yeah, I think for me, for Howie, for the front office, all the way across the board, it was one of those things that they could not talk themselves into the number he wanted at his age.
Yeah, and
I'm okay with that.
Yeah.
I'm okay with that. They've gotten in trouble doing it with corners.
Yeah. So Zach spoke to this in something I haven't heard anybody else talk about, is that the Eagles aren't usually a top of the market defensive end team.
Right.
They're not a team that pays that position
No,
top of market value.
they don't. You're right.
And it was something that I was like, oh my God. And he even went back. He's like, he went through it. Like he went through the past contracts and all those things. And it was like, man, like it was a great point, and something, if you don't think about it, you might not realize because of how much importance they place on defensive line.
Yeah.
But they're much more willing to pay a defensive tackle top of the end money than they are a defensive end. And I think that's kind of what we're seeing here. Yeah. Again, it makes them a worse team, but we're not seeing a sort of out of character trend from Howie Roseman in this situation.
Yeah, and let me move into why I like the trade itself.
Yeah.
I know a lot of people were up in arms about like, oh my gosh, well it's a 2026 pick, and oh my gosh, they're like, it's a third rounder. First of all, he's gonna meet those requirements. He's gonna meet these requirements. I know what the Jets do. I know what they do. They're a heavy rotational. They're like the Eagles.
Yes.
They're a heavy rotational group. But you don't trade for him if you don't intend on using him that amount. I don't care how closely they're looking at this. And look, at the end of the day, if they cut him at 62% of the snaps because they don't want it to reach 65%, fine. They're gonna stink in 2020. They are going
that's a fair
to
point,
stink in 2025, Ray.
Yeah.
Aaron Rodgers ain't gonna be there anymore.
Right.
Half of their team is good because they're gonna be in cap hell. So they're going to stink. So even if it is a third round pick that doesn't turn into a second round pick, it's going to be
essentially the first pick out of the second round. Yeah.
One of the top 5 picks in the third round.
Right.
Like, but I still think that he's going to meet the requirements because he's at least going to get the 10 sacks. And then they'll play with that other piece if they have to.
Well, the thing is that it's an and, not an or.
Yes, it needs to be both.
Yes.
Yep, it needs to be both. But I do like it because I do think they're going to be bad. And in my mind, I'm sitting here from the lens of like, yeah, okay, do 2000. Don't do 2025. They're going to be good this
year.
Yeah. They have a shot to win that division.
Yeah.
And not just win the division, but go really far in the playoffs. So I think Howie was smart in asking for the following year's picks, knowing that they're not going to be good. I liked it. Also, the Sixers just won. So
sick.
That's awesome. Joel came up with huge minutes at the end of the game.
I think he went
he was 12 for 12
for 12, yep.
I mean, knocked down big free throws.
No one talks about that enough with that man. The fact that you can't hack an Embiid is such an unbelievable advantage to the Sixers. It's absurd.
Yes.
With a man who is that big.
I'm so happy they won.
Yeah.
I'm so happy they won.
Yeah.
Okay. The other thing I wanted to talk about is what are they going to do in the next few weeks? The draft is like 3 weeks away. It'll be 3 weeks from Thursday.
Yes.
And to me, this is a team who they do put value in drafting this position. The problem is this is not a really great edge rusher draft. I've said that before.
Yeah, right.
I'm going to go back to it now. There are certain guys who could potentially drop and they could maybe move up. I could see Howie move for an edge. How far, I don't know. Like into the late teens, maybe would make sense. There's also the potential of moving down and taking a guy like Chop Robinson from Penn State, who I think is super athletic, but sort of reminds me of Nolan Smith from like the other areas. So I don't know that he's the best option. There are some other guys who I like. We'll talk about them in in the weeks that follow.
Yeah.
We'll highlight some guys that I think could be potential picks for them, and we'll really look at the edge position now, because I do think they're going to have to draft an edge at this point, because like Brandon Graham's gone after next year, Sweaty's gone after next year, so really you're down to Huff and Smith at that point. That's it. That's all you got.
Yeah.
So
not great.
you're gonna have to draft.
You're gonna
an
have to
edge
do
this
something.
year,
Yeah.
and probably
hope that next year is a better draft for that position.
Yeah, usually, I mean, every position goes in sort of waves, but
defensive end is one of those things that like is such a premium.
right.
That
it just isn't a deep draft.
Yeah.
There are 3 guys at the top of the draft who I think are really good, and everybody else just kind of falls.
Yeah.
But Howie has shown a lot of GMs do this. They'll trade up for the quarterback. They'll trade up for the corner. They'll trade up for the line, like offensive lineman or the defense. Like basically the passer and people who affect them.
Yeah, right.
Like that's who you trade up for. And I think where the Eagles are now, they don't have a ton of draft capital right now. So I think he's going to be wary about moving up. However, if the right guy falls, I think he'll do it.
Yeah.
So we'll see.
Let me ask you a question here. And
Yeah.
again, we can kind of move past it because we're going to talk about this much more in the coming weeks as the draft gets closer. But
right,
do you think they would be willing to spend their first round on secondary?
Yeah,
on a corner.
Oh, for sure.
Okay.
Yes.
Because in my opinion, I think their first pick should be a secondary pick. And I think their next one would be an O-line pick. And then at that point, just take D end, like take anybody. Like if you think you can develop somebody, like go for it.
I think right now, Regz, I know that's I've heard some people who just say they don't like the roster right now. I like the roster. I don't love the corner position right now. I still think that they have to address that
absolutely
somehow, either through trade or draft.
Yeah.
Like that has to be addressed. Also, my fist pump there, if you're watching on YouTube, was because the Braves left runners on first and second and lost. So the Phillies climbed back to where they were when we started yesterday's nightmare.
Beautiful.
So for me, Regz, it's been a great night, by the way. For me, Regz, I think it's best player available on their board, because I going back to what I was saying, I like the roster right now. Aside from corner, I really like the roster, and I still see Howie addressing corner maybe before the draft. Still 3 weeks before the draft. And Howie Roseman is the type of GM that like the offseason doesn't stop until the first game.
Yeah.
So, when it comes to the draft, I just think it's going to be pending their board, because offensive line right now, Tyler Steen is probably your right guard, but they also brought in Hennessy, who could play right guard. I don't know that you're not drafting a guard in the first round. So if you draft anything, it's going to be tackle that maybe plays guard.
Yeah.
Until Lane retires. But
well, yeah, that's what a lot of people are talking about. You're drafting a Lane replacement at this point.
So if you love an offensive tackle, which I don't know that they love tackle at 22, I think they love an offensive tackle at 50, 53.
Yeah.
Because there are a couple of guys from like smaller football schools, like a guy from Duke, a guy from Harvard, that they've liked. Maybe it's Yale. It's one of the big Ivy, that they love. So there's potential for that. I know that they invited Cooper DeJean to a top 30 visit, the D-back from Iowa.
Yeah.
Because they love his versatility. He can play outside, inside, safety, he plays in the box. I hesitate on Iowa D-backs.
Bo made such a funny statement today. He's like, no team has won a Super Bowl since at least 2000, because that's when I stopped looking at it, with 2 white secondary players.
Yeah, I got to be honest with you. I don't love, and it's not because of that. It's just it was just a funny statement.
Yeah.
It is. Bo is great.
Yeah,
like, he is great.
Yeah,
but I watched him play against Penn State multiple times. It didn't go great.
Yeah, right.
And that whole defense didn't go great. I think Iowa was incredibly overrated because of who they played all year. So I hesitate there, but they're very interested in the defensive back scenario there. It's going to be best player available. I will tell you right now what I believe their first 3 picks will be in no certain way. I believe they are going to take, if I had to put money on these like probabilities, the order with which I believe they're going to kind of build picks: offensive line, edge, offensive line, corner, wide receiver. I just don't know that they're invested in the edge thing right now because there's just not a great group.
Right.
But I can tell you right now, they're taking wide receiver.
Yeah.
There's no doubt in my mind they're taking receiver in this draft. It is a really good wide receiver draft.
Yeah.
So, and we'll dig into this more, but I think corner is definitely a place where they go with one of those first 3 picks, but it would not surprise me if we're watching it and we're like, what are they doing?
Yeah. Right.
Because they're going best player available.
Yeah.
Because they believe in what they've built roster wise. I feel good pretty much all across the board, except for corner now.
The secondary and maybe linebacker has to be better.
Dude, I actually love what they've done at linebacker. I do. This is the most they've invested in the position.
That's very true.
Years.
That's very true.
In years. I like what they've done.
Yeah.
Have they signed the big names? No. But Devin White could certainly be that for you.
Yes.
You're hoping Nakobe Dean gives you more snaps. The dude from the Niners is fine.
Yeah.
He is a fine.
The third linebacker on the Niners is not a bad place to be.
No. Yeah. And what they're planning on using Zach Bond for is essentially what Andrew Van Ginkel was.
I mean, and essentially he might be considered a D end at this point with how much he is probably going to rush the passer.
Correct. So I don't mind the linebacker position. I'm worried at edge depth wise, and I'm worried at corner depth.
Yeah.
Otherwise, I feel pretty good about where they're at. Roster construction. I loved what they just did at wide receiver.
Yeah.
I could not be more excited about this offense, Regz. What they're doing with this offense right now, I am so excited to watch this offense take the field in 2024.
Yeah.
I think when I look at, obviously we know what they have in the backfield now, but in terms of Paris Campbell, this is a kid they loved coming out of school, but they ended up taking what's his face from Stanford. This is the draft they took him.
What's his face from Stanford?
In the second round. They took him after Miles Sanders. He was terrible.
A wide receiver?
JJ Arcega-Whiteside.
Oh, yeah. Wasn't he from Notre Dame?
No.
Arcega-Whiteside? Who was the other 3-name guy from?
They haven't taken anybody from Notre Dame.
You're right.
So I don't know.
No, you're fine. We can move on. Right. Keep going.
All right. So they really Paris Campbell went to Ohio State, very good player. Got buried with the Giants because they stink. Really fun and explosive player. I just think with their and we've talked about this. Kellen Moore loves his third receivers. Loves them. This is gonna be a fun offense, Regz. He's option 5.
I just kind of forgot that Saquon Barkley is on our team now.
Yeah.
The scariest thing I've ever watched on the field is Saquon Barkley.
Yeah. I want to quickly touch on the new kickoff rules. We didn't talk about
this. Yeah, because then we're at 45 minutes. We got to get to the Phillies before we make this a 2-hour podcast.
I know. Well, we're usually good for about an hour and a half. We've got room. But I just briefly want to talk about
Yes.
It. So rules have changed. It's XFL rules now.
Yeah, it's go YouTube it. It's wild.
It's crazy. But essentially what it is now is it's a running play.
Yes.
So essentially, guys, if you kick the ball into the end zone, that's a huge advantage for the kicking team or the receiving team. They move the ball all the way out to 40 or something like that. I don't know if it's going in, but it is crazy good field position. Now, if the kicking team doesn't catch it in the catch zone, which is the 20 and in, then they get the ball like inside the 20 or something.
Yeah.
You catch it in the catch zone. The two teams are lined up.
10 yards apart, right? Yeah.
10 yards apart. Kicking teams at like the 35
Yeah.
and the receiving teams at the 25, I believe, or it's like the 30 and the 40, one of the two.
Right.
And it turns into like a running play.
Yeah, it's man on man essentially. Yeah.
So it begs the question, like, who becomes the returner for the Eagles? Because this is not like your typical kick return. You got to be able to read the holes, follow blocks from like a running game standpoint. So it's like, do you use Saquon knowing that there's like 3 or 4 touches a game there for do you only use him in a Deshaun style, where Deshaun Jackson style, where it's like, all right, only in big moments where
I think that's where we're leaning. Like Saquon, unfortunately, we have to take the injury like history into account here.
Mm-hmm.
Like the less you can get that guy hit, like again, he's going to play a lot on offense, and I really do think he's going to get a ton of touches. And I think like hopefully maybe that like whatever wide receiver they draft out of this year, like it's just a speedster, and you just throw that guy back there. Like throw that guy back there and just see what happens.
Yes.
And I don't want to risk Saquon Barkley unless, like you said, in a Deshaun Jackson scenario. Like,
I think that's the only time.
Exactly. If we can if we can win the game here, or it's like the last play of the game, then yes, you throw him back there and see what he can do.
Yeah, I think that's the only time you do it.
Yeah.
But I do believe that there's potential for him to get some touches back there. As of now, I don't see anybody else. I mean, it might be Gainwell, to be honest with you. He did return some kicks in college at Memphis, so maybe that's who they unlock there.
Or like you said, if you get a speedster wide receiver.
Yeah, it could be someone like Paris Campbell. I mean, you might even see Isaiah Rodgers there,
right?
Because he can straight fly.
Mm-hmm.
So it'll be interesting to see what they do with that. And look, I'm excited about it. I think it's different, and it like the kickoff was just kind of stupid.
Yeah, it
like,
was just everyone kicking the ball out of the end zone.
Yeah, it just became dumb. Like there was no purpose anymore. Right. And now they've taken away the onside kick, which I love. This just changes the dynamic. So I just wanted to mention it before we moved on to the Phils, because that's where we're at now. So thanks for indulging me.
Yeah.
All right, on to the Phils. Regz, I really don't know. Look, we're just gonna go here. They're 2-3.
Yes.
Through 5 games. The first 2 games were atrocious. And we'll get to the why here in a moment.
Yeah, the first game and a half was atrocious. Wheeler pitched 6 shutout innings.
Yeah. The first half of game 1. Sorry, I was thinking, what the heck good happened in game 2? The first half of game 1 was great, and then the last 3 innings was a disaster, and then all of game 2 was a disaster.
Yes.
Game 3 was fine.
Yeah.
They had to claw back a little bit.
Chin.
Yeah. Game 4 was not great. And then tonight was the first all right, this is cool.
Yeah,
baseball.
Right.
I like baseball.
Yeah,
again.
right.
Was tonight. So let's sort of talk about, let's start with the Braves. I just want to say straight out, this series mattered so much more to Atlanta than it did to the Phillies. And I'm not scapegoating like the effort here, because I thought it was putrid effort for the most part from the Phils outside of like a few guys.
Yeah.
But like you could just, I mean, it mattered so much to Atlanta that they came in like almost like, see, we are still those guys. We are still that team. And I think to us as a fan base, like, and I mean it, like, fine, beat us now. Like, have your March wins. I don't care. Like, we've beaten you twice in October now. How is that not, a thing? So I don't know, man. That was me sort of processing.
Yeah, shockingly, I'm going to play the other side here. Just because I want to talk it out, not because I necessarily disagree with you.
Yeah.
But like, why can't we be the Pirates who start 5-0?
Well, They won't be 5-0.
I understand. I'm not saying this translates to the rest of your season, but like, why do we have to like revert back to, oh, it's just the start of the season?
Yeah, it's super frustrating.
I'm like, we talked about this in our preview pod. I wanted this team to come out and be like, fuck the rest of this league.
Yeah.
We are pissed. We know we should have gone to the World Series last year. And like, we're going to come out this entire season and play like you don't know what you've gotten into with this team. And I get it. Baseball of all sports is a freaking marathon. Like, it is not about 1 3-game series. I am conceding that fact. I know it. I got it. But I can't get away from the slight fact of like, can I just have a baseball team that wants to kick everyone's ass all the time? Is it too much to ask for?
Yeah.
That like the phrase, it's a long season, like I'm tired of it. Can I just have a baseball team that wants to kick every single team's ass for all season? I understand injuries are going to happen. Like I'm not talking about that. That is not what we're talking about here. I am just talking about the attitude. Like, why do I have to be okay with it's just the first series excuse? There are some teams that have come out and gone undefeated in their games. Why do I, as a Phillies fan, have to be okay with it's just the first series? How about you come out and kick the ass of the Braves and show them, why can't you want the series more than the Braves do? Why do I have to be okay with them wanting it more? Why do I have to be okay with that? I understand that. Listen, again, I understand we are 5 games into a 162 game season. I understand. As you very astutely put it all the time with me, if this happened in June or July, no one would care. You're right. I'm not disagreeing with it. But why, as a fan, do I have to be okay with the other team wanted it more? Fuck you. How about you want it more?
So here's what I want to say. I hear you what you're saying about this, right? 5-0, cool. Let's look at the difference in teams that they've played though, right? Like the Marlins stink.
Fair.
That's a really bad baseball.
I understand. Team. I think
it's a bad.
Yeah, I'm leaning more towards the statement of the Braves wanted it more. Why can't my team want it more?
So, but Regz, let's recency bias this a little bit. The Phillies swept the Braves in 2019 to start the year, and then swept them in 2021 to start. And both times, the Braves ended up kicking their ass in the standings, and it didn't matter. Because, and again, every game matters. And I'm not here to say that it doesn't. But, I think for me, when I look at it, 2-3 is not necessarily a slow start. They were 1-5 last year. Got their asses whooped in Texas.
Yes.
And then got their asses kicked in New York and got lucky one game.
Yes.
So, for me, I'm looking out till the end of April and saying, all right, how did we start? Because that's what we looked at when we first zoned in on the season. And look, Cincinnati isn't a bad baseball team.
No.
The team they're playing right now is a pretty sound baseball team. They have good hitters up and down the lineup. They're missing guys right now. But we're watching a pretty good baseball team. They made some mistakes tonight in capital. But I wanted them to get off to a good start. 2-1 against the Braves would have been great. They did salvage one, a little bit of luck along the way. I think though, we said it, we texted each other about this. This Braves lineup just has no let up at all. Zero break in their lineup.
Yeah.
Every one of them hits. And they were getting some really nice bounces
right.
and some real luck. that the Phillies just weren't getting.
Have you ever seen a ball travel more than that Michael Harris that he absolutely beat into the floor?
Yeah.
It went
And
4
bounced-
feet through the home plate and then hit the outfield grass before it hit the ground again.
And the ball that I forget who hit it, but it was like a jam shot that just trailed over Bryce's glove in right field. And then Bryce hits a freaking rocket.
At Olsen,
It lands in Olsen's glove and he tags Trey out. Or Matt Olsen hit basically a fly ball to right field that went literally a row over. But JT hits a ball out into left center field that lands on the track and only is not a home run. So there was some like luck at play in this series that led to some bad breaks for the Phillies and some good ones for the. But what I don't think my point is they wanted it. I think my point is they just needed it. Like, this is a team who comes limping in after being sent home twice from that stadium. And they're trying to come out and say, we've won 100 games the last 2 years. We're still better than you. Doesn't matter that you've gotten the postseason. We're still the best team in the division and in this league. Whereas the Phillies are like, and again, I'm not happy with the way they're starting. We were told that there was more focus on starting better, starting hotter, and catching the Braves and playing with the Braves and not ending up games behind them by the end of April. Well, I'm here to tell you we're 5 games in. They're only. So, like, let's just, everything's fine. And let's revisit this conversation at the end of April.
Yeah.
And see where the two, they don't play each other till July.
That's also ridiculous. But like,
so
I think I'm over exaggerating a little bit. I think I really am more focused on the attitude part of it. The actual record and everything you just said is absolutely true. The Braves got a ton more breaks than the Phillies did in those 3 games. I just am, it's like I said in the preview pod, I was looking for this team to come out and just be pissed off and wanting to show the entire major, like, just not the National League, but like all of Major League Baseball. Like, 2022 was like a miracle run. Like, let's just be honest. It was an unbelievable out of nowhere run for this team.
Yeah.
And then you go into the next year and you lose to a team that wasn't better than you. You blew it. I just wanted my baseball team to come out and have the attitude of, we are going to kick everyone's ass this year. And look, I'm not saying that being 2-3 and 1 back from the Braves is a bad thing. The Braves are like the all-stars of regular season. I get it. It's just like the Dodgers. Like, they're going to win a shit ton of regular season games. And then, like, we have no idea what's going to happen in the playoffs. The Dodgers haven't made it out of the first round of the playoffs the past couple of years. And they won like 110 games last year. Like, I get it. I understand that that's a thing, the reality we live in. I just so desperately want a baseball team that doesn't have the attitude of, it's just a game. It's just a 3-game series. It's irrational. Listen, I'm going to preface, it's irrational. It's too long of a baseball season to have that attitude all the time. I get it. I understand. I preface. Thank you. Thank you. I preface all of this with saying it's ridiculous to think this way. It's not like a 17-game NFL season where your team can have this attitude all the time. But like, just give me something other than, oh, it's early. Like, Nick Castellanos looks like he didn't do a fucking thing over spring training and on the offseason to learn what an off-speed pitch is.
I'm with you on Nick. And because I think the Nick thing is just, it's frustrating because it's like,
how can you not be better at something that you've been terrible at for 2 years?
Well, he's been terrible at it for his whole career.
But like, again, you're a Major League Baseball player. There's so much video. How can you just be like, nah, I'm fine. Everything's cool. I don't have to change anything.
free swingers will be free swingers. I look, man, I don't know. I just think like let's just wait and see what this looks like at the end of April, because the Brave series was frustrating from the lens of wanted them to come out, we wanted them to dominate, we wanted them to show the effort that you're talking about. I don't know that those games were. I don't know. I don't know how to describe it. It wasn't good, and those series will happen. There's a good chance that when they play in July, the Phillies thing to them, and we're having a very different conversation. Let's kind of move though. Let's shift to last night.
Yep.
Because tonight, because the tale of two different games. I do want to shout out. We're going to talk about positive starting pitching. Aside from one gentleman, has been phenomenal, and Christopher Sanchez was great last night. The offense shut down.
Yes,
it was Taylor's oldest time with this.
That was not Christopher Sanchez's fault.
Taylor's oldest time with this team. It's the same thing as it is every year, where they'll get 2 runs and then they'll go into shutdown. They had plenty of opportunities. The 2 guys at the top were on base multiple times, and they couldn't cash in. And then it went to extras. They had 2 base running blunders that pissed me off to no end. As a former base stealer, I'm not upset with Stotty going on first movement, because it's what you do against left-handed pitchers. I don't know that it was the right spot to do it.
Right, exactly.
Like, it just wasn't the right spot.
At that point, you were dying for a base runner. Like, it's the context. It's all about context. It's the same thing with Rojas. Do we care about him being that aggressive? No, but you're in the 8th inning, and you're trying to like
he's scoring on a base hit.
But that's what I mean. But that's the context. That's the context.
Yeah.
If it's the 3rd inning, we're not that worried about it. But it's the 8th inning, and you literally got put in the game because you score on a single. That's why you're there. You're not there to steal third base.
Yeah.
That's the context.
And for me, like, if you're gonna do that, you've got to make sure they go to the plate. You are fast enough.
Exactly. It's just the dumbest of the dumb. It's the dumbest of the dumb.
So that was frustrating, and then we'll talk about the other frustrating part in a little bit when we talk about the negatives of the first 5 games so far. Tonight was fantastic in all aspects.
Yeah. Can I read a stat or read something from Matt Gelb about tonight? Because it's freaking unbelievable what this guy did.
They won 9-4.
Yes.
Bryce homered 3 times.
Here you go. The Phillies sent a car at noon for Ricardo Pinto, who was in Rochester, New York with the Iron Pigs. He got stuck in traffic and did not arrive until the 4th inning. He said hello to Rob Thompson, then went to the bullpen. He pitched 4 innings for the save.
And how many strikeouts did he have? Do you know?
Nope. But hold on.
I got the box score.
All right.
Pretty much
I was about to say that's what I was about to pull up.
Here's his whole line. He went 4 innings, gave up 5 hits, 3 runs, 2 of them earned. He didn't walk anybody and struck out 4.
For a guy who arrived at the stadium in the 4th inning.
And mind you, pitched the 6th, 7th, 8th, and 9th. So he got there in the 4th, pitched in the 6th.
Warmed up.
He basically got to the bullpen and warmed up.
Warmed up, and then went in and pitched 4 innings, essentially.
And did a huge service to that bullpen.
You can't speak highly enough about what Spencer Turnbull and Pinto did tonight for this baseball team. I understand
innings,
we're in the 5th game, but what they did, and again, he gave up most of those runs in the 9th inning when they were up 9-1.
And he was probably spent.
Yeah, when it didn't matter.
Yeah. So the 2 combined 9 innings, 8 hits, 4 runs, 2 of them earned on 8 hits. So they both had an unearned run apiece. They didn't walk. Neither one of them walked single batter tonight.
Absurd.
And they struck out 11.
Absurd.
You know, when you don't give up free base runners, you tend to win baseball.
Only Connor Brogdon knew that.
Yeah, right. just a tremendous job by Pinto.
Unbelievable.
He's safe. So now let's look at it this way. If they do play tomorrow, every arm in the bullpen
The
is
entire
available.
bullpen is available.
And let's also mind you, it's a Wheeler start.
Yeah.
So, you're hoping you might only need 2 guys.
Mm-hmm.
And if the offense stays awake, you might only need like Nick Nelson. So, that's pretty freaking great. And if you don't play tomorrow, now everybody's rested for 2 to 3.
But and
they needed that.
This is why baseball is the best. Because a guy literally arrived at the stadium an inning before he pitched 4 major league innings. I don't care what team you're pitching against.
And that's a tough team.
He hasn't pitched in the majors since 2019.
Yeah. He's pitching the Caribbean World Series this year.
And he comes in and throws 4 innings with 2 earned runs and doesn't walk one person. Baseball's the best.
Someone I'm really tired of already, though, from Cincinnati, Mr. Steer. That guy can.
Yeah, I don't need to see that kid anymore.
Jonathan India, too. That guy. I mean, he was 0 for 5 tonight, but but still, gracious.
I've always loved that kid.
Yeah, and he seems like a really nice dude, too. He really does.
The speed, he always puts the
I do want to take a moment and just let's talk about do you want to do the positives or the negatives from the first couple of games here?
Negatives then positives.
All right, so I'll do a negative. You do a negative.
All right.
I'm going to start with the very obvious. Connor Brogdon.
Yeah. My God.
I'm
didn't even know if you have to talk about it. I think everyone gets it.
Well, I want to say this.
Yeah.
I will never be happy to watch someone lose their job.
Yeah.
Pretty much live in action.
Right.
And I feel badly for the guy. He was one of the biggest, successes in 2022. But my goodness,
it's gone,
buddy. You can't throw he is so mentally shot.
Yeah, it's over.
And it was so bad.
And look, credit to him for being honest, with the press and not shying away from it, not giving the player speak. He was very honest post game about
being on the roster was a miss by the front office.
Well, it was necessitated from the injuries.
I'm sorry. I'm sorry.
Listen,
no.
You're right. I think it wasn't a great move.
An arm was necessary.
Yes.
With the injuries.
His arm, not necessarily. Yeah.
This guy was not good in spring.
Yeah. It's fair. It's an extremely fair point.
There were other guys like Ricardo Pinto was, if not as good, better during spring training.
Who was the other one? Buchanan or something like that?
Well, Buchanan was a starter and was good. Mercado was fine.
Mercado, that's the one. Yeah.
They really liked Ruiz, who's been fine.
Mm-hmm.
There are plenty of guys that could have been here. And they chose Brogdon because he didn't have any options left.
Yeah.
And that decision, and then the decision to run him out in 2 close games cost them 2 wins.
Yeah.
So, number 1, Connor Brogdon.
Yes.
You go ahead.
I don't like to do it, but Bryson Stott.
Oh.
I haven't enjoyed his at bats. I know he's got a few hits here and there. He's been letting the first ball fastballs go. He's been swinging at more balls than I appreciate. And I just don't think the approach has been there were multiple off-season articles about how they've been working on him being more aggressive on that first pitch fastball to try and get something in play. It just hasn't seemed like. I'm not going to talk about the defense. The defense is still great. He overdove for 1 ball, I think, in one of the first 2 games. But look, I'm not going to quibble about that. The guy's a great defender. But just I have not been happy with his at bats.
Okay. All right. Okay. Yeah, I don't have much to add there because I Yeah. Okay. I'm
I
gonna go with.
threw you with that one, didn't I?
Yeah, I did not see that coming. Did not see that coming. I'm gonna go with one that you might. Yeah, well, you'll probably see coming from me. And this is really early to say this, and I love the guy, but I feel like Topper has not been great early.
You're exactly right.
There have been two very specific instances where he brought the infield in, and I just don't understand why. Last night being one of them. I have no idea.
Yeah.
It didn't affect them because Jeff Hoffman's really freaking good. Like really freaking good.
Yes.
And found a way out of it. But like there's no reason to put the infield in when in a 2-run game.
Right. Get the double
with
play.
runners on first and third.
Yeah.
And nobody out.
You give up the run for the double play.
Yeah, but Hoffman saved him.
Yeah.
The decision to put Brogdon in the game last night and not Nick Nelson, like I know that Nick Nelson isn't, a world beater. I also trusted him more than Connor Brogdon. I would have been happy with Junior Marte coming out, honestly, over that. Or like I don't understand why Gregory Soto couldn't pitch last.
It was the whole 3 days in a row thing.
He only threw 2 days in a row.
No, that's what I mean. They didn't want to bring someone out for a third day.
I just don't understand.
I know he threw one pitch. I know. Listen, I'm not. I'm just giving you what they said. I'm not.
I do hear though, like, oh, we don't want to, get him up again. I hear that, but I'm also like, seriously, Connor Brown.
No, I'm with you.
Like,
yeah. No, yeah.
So, I don't know. And I don't want to, I know Topper. I also was like with the lineup on Sunday. I know it worked, they won, but it's like the back end of
you had
Sosa,
3 9-hole hitters in a row.
Yeah, and we got to stop with the Brandon Marsh.
We have to stop.
We have to stop. It's enough. It's enough. We can't be giving Johan Rojas all the chances in the world, but Brandon Marsh can't play against lefties.
Exactly.
And I don't know where that's coming from. I don't want to blame Topper. It might be a Dave thing, but like
I don't know how can it be at this point. Like
I don't know.
Just I'm over that.
But Topper
for sure.
Topper for me. You do another one, then we'll do. You got 2 more.
Yeah. Again, not a non-obvious one. Nick Castellanos.
Yeah.
Like
that one I can get on board with. Stop. I'm having a little bit of trouble. Nick, I can get on.
Have you not understood that anything with spin is not going to be a strike to you? Like I don't get how you can still come into these games and be swinging at what you're swinging at.
Yeah.
He also seems like he's miles off the plate.
He is a little bit further off the plate.
Like, get the fuck on the plate, man. Everyone is going to pitch you out low and outside.
Yeah.
Like, just figure it out. Do something that shows me you're trying.
Yeah.
Because at this point, you're just like nothing. You're doing nothing.
Yeah.
That's it.
All right, my last one. And I'm I know people are probably wondering why I haven't, because it's one start and I'm not super worried about Aaron Nola, but I'm gonna say I want Kyle Schwarber hitting bombs. I know that there's a lot of people out there that are like, oh my gosh, Kyle Schwarber's hitting singles. This is great because he's a leadoff hitter again. And I'm over here like, I miss the Kyle Schwarber who walked and hit 900-foot bombs.
Yeah.
I miss that guy at a leadoff spot. Stop with the singles, Kyle. Because you're hitting 280. I don't want you hitting 280.
Yeah.
I want you hitting 220 with 50 bombs.
Yes.
Stop now.
I'm with you. My only not caveat, but my only response to that is that I can appreciate him wanting to be in a approach that allows him to hit it the other way.
Absolutely.
Because I think it gives him the most chances to be the best hitter possible.
Absolutely.
I'm completely with you though. I don't need 280 with a bunch of singles. Give me 230, like you said, with 45. Yes, exactly. I'm with you. But like if your approach allows you to at sometimes put the ball the other way, great.
Yeah.
But like you're not a singles guy, Kyle.
No.
That's not why you're here.
Nope,
Yeah.
don't need singles guy
Nope,
Kyle.
totally agree. Yep, totally
All
agree.
right, your last one.
My last one isn't on the fence. Like, I want Sir Anthony to be good.
Oh yeah, that's a good one.
I just really want Sir Anthony back.
Yeah.
The stuff.
The changeup's not there yet. He
No,
needs
it's
that
not.
changeup.
I get it, but
Yeah.
like the stuff is so good.
Yeah.
And I just feel
Yeah.
like it's all mechanical with him. And there's times where he just decides he's not going to pay attention to it and like worry about his delivery and like where his shoulder's going. Like he flares out and like you can watch it. Like I'm not a major league pitching coach, but like you can see when it's wrong and when it's right. Like I know it's like a couple outings. It's not a huge deal, but like, sir, I want my sir back. That's what I want.
He's showing signs though.
Yes,
There's definitely
absolutely.
signs.
Just like, come on,
Definitely
sir.
signs. Yeah.
Come back to me,
all
buddy.
right. Well, let's do some positives here. We'll do the same thing for each. Look, I'm absolutely going there with my first one. Brandon.
Yeah.
I mean, my guy.
Yeah.
My guy.
Buddy,
right now.
the eruption on Sunday when he pinch hit was the loudest I've heard that stadium.
All I hear is barking.
It was enormous.
I love him so much.
It was great.
Regz, I truly believe he's my favorite. Like, I love Brandon Marsh. I am a Brandon Marsh stan.
Yeah.
The dude has 2 home runs now this year, both of them to left field.
Yeah. And
He's
like not on
controversial.
swings that like you would think would go out. It's just
The
like
dude's
that
just
ball
strong.
went out. It's like, wow.
Strong.
Yeah.
He's strong. After tonight, hitting 357.
He put a couple singles into right field.
Brandon Marsh.
Listen,
batting
bold
champion
prediction.
watch?
There it is.
Batting champion watch. OPS 1143.
Yeah, it's pretty good.
B.
It's pretty good.
My guy. My guy. So he's my number one. I'm just so beyond thrilled.
Fantastic.
So beyond thrilled. You go ahead.
The rest of the bullpen not named Connor Brogdon.
Yeah.
Like again,
and sir, a
little bit of sir, but like outside of game 2, listen, no bullpen is going to be perfect. But you know what that bullpen did in game 3?
Mm-hmm.
They came out and shoved.
Mm-hmm.
Strom,
honestly, game 2 wasn't bad. It was game 1 that was bad.
Right. Yeah, that's what I mean. Sorry. Game 1.
Yeah.
Strom and Alvarado came back and shoved.
Yeah.
And like, I really hope Soto continues to get a good leash. Like, I just think that guy can still pitch really well when he's not put in a closer role. Like, I really just think in Detroit, he was the best guy they had, so they had to throw him out there. But Hoffman, Strom, Alvarado, Soto, I still, like I just said, sir, we believe in you. And then getting Kerkering back. The Ortiz injury sucked. Like I really like Ortiz. Yeah. Like just as what his role is. I'm not saying he's like some unbelievable stud, but like for his role, I really liked him. Mm-hmm. And like you said, Marte has been pretty good. Yeah, the stuff has always been there. It's just the ability to like throw it and get people out.
Yeah, I'm glad you mentioned it.
But I think an overall positive has been the bullpen.
Yeah. I'm going to be really specific here off of that as my number 2. I just can't say enough about Jeff Hoffman.
Yeah. Jesus Christ.
I mean, this dude
it's unbelievable.
He is unreal good.
Yep.
Like the type of good that when he comes in the game, I'm like, all right, like he's fine.
Yeah.
I know the high hopes guys were talking about, like we haven't had like a fire extinguisher like him
since
forever.
Since Madsen. Yeah.
Yeah. And at least a righty version.
Right. Exactly.
And honestly, I'm hoping that they're doing the same thing with him that with Strom, which is get the extension now.
Yeah.
Because that dude's getting paid if he gets to free agency. Mm-hmm. I do think that he would stay in Philly.
I
'cause
also
they
think he
gave him an
really
opportunity.
wants to be here.
Yeah, they gave him the opportunity and he's thrived.
He is not
So-
a guy to me that seems like he's looking for like the payday over being in a place that like trusted him and
Yeah.
worked with him
Yeah.
and got him to be where he is right now.
What would be nice is let's start giving him Sir Anthony.
For now,
I think
I
they're
think I'm
kinda
completely
doing
with
that.
you.
they're kind of doing that because he's like their fire extinguisher, like I said.
Well, he's the guy when there's
Um,
guys on base, like you just bring in Hoffman and you don't expect anyone to score,
right. Like he
which is absurd.
he did throw a bad pitch last night.
Yes,
Bad pitch.
one bad pitch.
And
Yes.
He had what's his face 0-2 and then threw a fastball right
What's
down
his name? Stanton. Yeah.
Yeah. So if he would have
Throwing
it
a better
up
pitch. Yep.
where JT wanted it, it's either taken or
Absolutely
swung
right.
through.
Absolutely right.
But again, it's not easy to come in and do what he does
Listen,
on a daily basis.
No guy is going to be perfect. Like you said, it's baseball.
Yeah.
The fact
Yeah.
that we're shocked that he gave up runs, I think
I know.
speaks to what we're talking about.
He's so good. He's
Yeah.
so good.
Yeah.
So and then when Kirkering comes, you got your right now. Jeff Hoffman for me is I only want Jeff Hoffman coming in games. Like
He's your
That-
he's your absolute number one righty.
he is my actually at this point I think he's my number one. Period. I love Jose, but Hoffman's just different, dude. He's different.
Yeah.
He throws strikes consistently.
Yeah.
And dudes chase that slider and that split finger every single time.
And just the fire that he comes in with is like,
I love him.
yeah,
I
it's
freaking
great.
love him.
It's great.
I love Jeff Hoffman. Not as much as I love B, but I love
No,
Jeff
but
Hoffman.
I'm with you.
All right, you're up. Number 2.
Damn, I had one in my head, but what was I about to say? Oh, I mean, this is easy. Like just Zach Wheeler.
Yeah.
Like I don't know. I have to say much more about it. Just
Yeah.
Zach Wheeler.
Zach Wheeler. Zach.
We can move on.
Z baby. Z baby Z. Yeah, and wouldn't it be hilarious if I came back and said, I love the new Kyle Schwarber? That's not what I'm gonna say, but I'm gonna go with the 3, 4, 5 in the rotation right now. I said to you
Yeah.
before the show that if they get this kind of production and output from Ranger, Christopher Sanchez, and Spencer Turnbull. Now Spencer's not going to be there when Ty comes back. Spencer will move to the bullpen. But if they're getting this sort of output from 3, 4, 5, they're going to win a heck of a lot of baseball games.
Yes.
Plain and simple. They're going to win a heck of a lot of baseball games.
And I completely agree with you. And I think we can't lose sight of the fact that any start that involves Christopher Sanchez, Spencer Turnbull, and even a Ranger, if they are giving up less than 4 runs in like a 6 or 7 inning start, you've hit the jackpot.
Yeah.
Like let's just be honest about what we're talking about. We're not talking like, again, Wheeler goes out and throws a shutout 6 innings. That's what aces do. That's what Zach Wheeler is expected to do.
Yeah.
Ranger, Christopher Sanchez, and whoever the 5th guy is, like, let's just say Turnbull for now. If they give up less than 4 runs in 5 or 6 innings, you've hit the jackpot.
Yeah.
And I really do think
Turnbull
Ranger,
gave up 1.
Ranger can get to the 6 or 7 inning mark.
Oh yeah,
this
for sure.
year.
I think they all can.
I completely agree with you. And like, if that's what we're talking about, this team is going to win so many more baseball games than they would have won last year. It's crazy.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Just one start from your 5 starter this year, and he got you through 5, giving up 1 unearned run. Essentially, he didn't give up anything through 5 innings.
Right.
Struck out 7 dudes.
Yeah.
Last night, Christopher Sanchez was awesome.
Awesome.
I didn't love that they didn't have somebody ready if he
sure.
let a guy on base.
For whatever reason, the command like went crazy in that last inning, but
yeah. So for those of you wondering, I think we didn't want to be super obvious and say that like one of our things was Johan Rojas. Like,
yeah, I mean, at this point, it's like
we've made plenty of mention to
Yes.
we're not really feeling Johan Rojas.
Yeah. And also on the positive side, like from tonight, Bryce Harper being totally back.
Jesus, yeah, that dude is just. I need him to wear the ski mask all the time now. Though. All right, so that's it for our Philly stuff tonight. We will be back next Thursday night, and they will have played 2 more series at that point. So we'll have a nice recap of the Washington series, and where do they go after Washington? Colorado?
That seems right. But
St. Louis.
all right,
St. Louis.
there you go.
St. Louis. So they'll finish 3 games in St. Louis, and then we'll have played 1 game in Pittsburgh, and that's you said it, they're 5-0.
Mm-hmm.
So we'll see how that lines up. So we'll be back for that one and ready to roll it out. I do want to take a moment before we bring Grayson in. Just thank you for listening. Thanks for following. If you're not already doing so, please click subscribe on the YouTube channel below. Follow us on all of your podcast platforms. Follow, rate, subscribe, do the whole thing. Follow us on social media at Big Regz with a Z, at the Phixated Podcast, and at the Phixated fan page. Also, click the merchandise link in the show description below. Thank you so much for listening. I'm not going to do any more lead in. We're going to get Grayson in here, enjoy his essay, and make sure that you give him on social when you hear it, because the kid crushed it. Super proud and happy to have him on. Thanks everybody for listening. Phils, if you play tomorrow, let's take this and get back to 500 and never look back.
That's
Go
right.
Phil.
Go Phils, baby.
All right, everyone, we are stoked to have a very special guest on the Phixated Podcast tonight to read us an essay he wrote about Citizens Bank Park. But we want to get to know him first. Mr. Grayson Healy, 5th grade student at Washington Heights Elementary School. How you doing, Grayson?
I'm good.
Yeah, well, we're excited to have you here, man. You reached out and told us that you had to write an essay about one of your favorite places for Mr. Shutter's class. Is that right?
Yes.
And you chose Citizens Bank Park, right?
Yep.
It's a great choice.
Yes, sir. Great choice. Also one of my favorite places in the world. And Grayson, in a moment, we're going to have you read that, but we want to get to know you first. So I'm going to ask, since this was for school, and since I'm a former educator, and I know your father is an educator, I have to ask, what is your favorite subject in school?
Probably math.
Okay. Listen, I'm impressed because I feel like a lot of kids tell me PE or
I was about to say,
so,
the fact that he didn't say gym might give him some extra points here.
But you do love PE, huh?
Yes.
Yeah, of course.
Because what I know about you is that you're also a baseball player and a pretty good one too. What position do you play, Grayson?
Usually shortstop and pitcher.
I love it. Those were 2 of mine growing up. What's your favorite thing about baseball? As a player, as a fan, what do you love about the sport?
I just love the crack of the bat and the pop of the glove.
Oh man, that's poetic right there. I love that. Regz, this is a guy after our own hearts.
I told you, he's taking your job.
We told Grayson before he came on that he was going to take my chair, and he's certainly proven that.
Crack
right
of the
now.
bat and pop of the glove. Goodness gracious.
And Grayson, you're ready to take my chair, huh?
He's ready to go.
He's ready to go. So here's before we do, tell us, Grayson, you're a huge Phillies fan. You were at opening day. We got a chance to hang out before the game. You were there with your dad. Tell everybody your favorite current Philly.
My favorite Philly is Bryson Stott.
I love it.
Nice.
I love it. I'm saying, Regz, this guy is right on par with us. This is what do you love about Bryson Stott?
I kind of have the same stance as him.
Okay.
And
All right.
I like the flow in his hair.
There you go.
Is that why you grew your hair out?
Yeah.
See,
Are you lefty, Grayson?
Mhm.
Nice.
There you go.
Awesome. awesome. And he was a shortstop all the way through college and everything like that. So that's pretty awesome that you're taking up that part of his game, and the flowing locks too. Like you're doing that as well. So really cool stuff. Grayson, we want you to give us that essay. Are you ready to fill us in on why Citizens Bank Park is one of your favorite places?
Yep.
All right, hit us with it, buddy.
My Favorite Place by Grayson Healy. Citizens Bank Park in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania is my favorite place. I love it. I love it because it has great fans, a lot of energy, and a great vibe. I can remember my first game I went to with my dad. I can remember being amazed that I was able to see the players I watched on TV in person. We got there early so we could get some autographs. We sat 2 rows behind first base. Right when we were walking down to our seats, Juris Familia threw me a ball. I was so surprised to get my first Major League Baseball at my first Major League game. That's how you can tell that the Phillies players are great. I love the daycare, especially Bryce and Stott. Last year, my dad and I went to opening day. Boy, was that a story. When we got there, someone from the Phillies came up to us and asked us if we wanted to go down to the field to greet the players for the opening day ceremony. We got to high-five all the players, Topper, and the best mascot in baseball, the Philly Fanatic. That was something I will never forget. The Phillies won 5-2. After the game, while we were walking to our car, we saw some people waiting at the back gate for autographs, so we started waiting too. A bunch of players were willing to stop for autographs. That's why I think this place is so special. Once Nick Castellanos came out, everyone started pushing to get to his car, so I did too. I had to climb over the car door to reach in over his son Liam to get his autograph. Another reason I love Citizens Bank Park is because whenever you are sitting in the upper deck in left field behind the dugout or in Ashburn Alley, the fans are passionate about their crazy home team, the Phillies. But I think my favorite part about the bank is how they ring the bell after a win or a home run. My favorite is a Schwarbomb, which we got to see last year against the Marlins. This is why Citizens Bank Park is my favorite place. The best atmosphere in Major League Baseball. Go Phillies.
Wow.
I feel like we need to clap for that.
I know. You hit literally everything that makes Citizens Bank Park the best place to watch a baseball game. You nailed it. Between the fans, the homers, the bell, the passion, wherever you are in the stadium, you can feel all of those things. Regz, he crushed it. That's like the perfect sales pitch to go to CBP.
I thought he was going to say he was going to be one of those starting 9 kids and he got to like stand there. But like, I mean, just as cool standing in the line for opening day. That's awesome.
And you got to shake, I'm sure, your boy Stotty's hand on the way through too.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
That's a cool moment. Your dad sent me the picture of you climbing into Nick's car. So that is a memory I'm sure that you'll cherish forever. And you got to meet like one of the heroes of Philadelphia, Liam Castellanos, when you did that.
Yeah.
So let me ask you this, because you said in there that one of your favorite things is the bell, right? The bell ringing and the Schwarbomb against the Marlins is one that you remember. Do you have another favorite memory? Like, was there a memory from this year's opening day? Because I know you wrote this before this year's opening day. Do you have a memory from this year's opening day? Because I think this is a tradition for you now. Something that you think about from this past year.
Mm-hmm. I like when we were waiting before the game and tailgating and seeing the experience of all the fans going crazy before the game.
Yeah, I was lucky enough, Regz. I was so upset that you couldn't be there. I got to hang out with Grayson a little bit. He came to the little Phixated hangout before the game and hung out with a lot of our Well, a lot of our
I'm
most passionate
I'm even
listeners.
more sorry I missed it now.
So I'm glad he got to experience that. I'm glad you got to hang out with us, and that we got to hang out with you. And so Grayson, I think, as we do with everybody who comes on the show, we need a prediction, because the Phillies are playing game number 6 right now. Right before Grayson came on, Bryce Harper hit his 3rd home run of the night, a grand slam to go up 8-1. So we're hoping that they're on the way to their 2nd win in 5 games. Sorry. So Grayson, we're going to fast forward all the way to the end of September, all the way through October. You're going to tell me right now, how far are they going? Are we getting another disappointing end to the season, or are we going to get a more exciting end to the season?
I think we're gonna go to the National League Championship game and win that and win the World Series.
That is
Attaboy.
my guy. Listen, anytime that we need a boost, Grayson Healy's coming on the show, Ray.
Yeah, let's do that. I mean, we might be calling on him a lot, knock on wood, but like the long season, I'm not sure he has that kind of time.
Well, the guy's busy.
It's baseball season. He's got stuff to do.
And baseball is rolling around, but I know that he's interested in taking my seat. So, Grayson, if there's a time where I can't get here, you come on and you host the show with Regz. Deal?
Yes, deal.
All right,
There
deal.
you go.
Hey, thanks for coming on and reading that. Shout out to Mr. Shutter's class and the opportunity to write such a cool essay. Keep working hard, man. Keep working hard in the classroom. Keep working hard on the baseball field. And we're super grateful that you took some time to spend with us tonight here on Phixated. And we'll catch you later. All right, Grayson? Thanks so much, buddy.
Thanks, buddy.
Yep. See ya.
Oh my God! Deep to right field, way up there and way out of here!
The Philadelphia Eagles are Super Bowl champions. Eagles fans everywhere, this is for you.
The 0-2 pitch, swing and a miss, struck him out. The Philadelphia Phillies are 2008 World Champions of Baseball.